Sit a while. The fire is lit and the night is long. I am the wanderer. I walked all 13 roads, and I came back, which is more than most who set foot on them can say. Tonight I will tell you 5 tales, end to end. A drum that walked a village of children into the dark. A schoolhouse that filled, year by year, with empty coats. A cave that 12 entered. A ship that cannot land. And a mapmaker whose every map costs the buyer a year of his life. Don't hurry. The roads never do. We begin with the drum. 13 roads. Here is a tale I have not yet forgotten. Listen. Tonight it is a village called Marrowfen, and a stranger with a drum, and the night every child in that village walked out and did not come back. I will tell you what the village paid, and what it refused to pay, and what was taken instead. There are 13 roads in the country I walk. The Iron Road is one of them, the Soldier's Road, cut into the mountain, the road that takes things. When it returns them, they are not what they were. Marrowfen sits at its foot. 63 houses, 1 chapel, 2 wells, and a low stone bridge over a creek that runs the wrong direction in winter. A poor village, an old one. This is where the trouble began. The trouble was not rats. I want to say that early because you may be expecting rats. The trouble was the wells. Both went bad in the same week. The water came up clean and clear and tasting of nothing, and any creature that drank it was sick by morning and dead within 3 days. The cattle went first, then the pigs, then a child of 7 who had drunk from her grandmother's cup on a Sunday and was buried on the Wednesday following. The grandmother at the graveside saying very quietly that she had drunk from the same cup, and the water had tasted to her of nothing, and she did not understand why she was alive. She would die 9 days later. It only took her slowly, because she was old. The priest blessed the wells. The blessing did not hold. A bishop came from the city with a longer rite and a relic, and the next child to drink from the bucket was dead by the end of the week. The bishop went home. The villagers fetched water from the creek, but the creek was low and brackish and would not feed 63 houses through a winter. By the second snow, Marrowfen was dying. The way a man dies when his hands have been bound behind him and his face turned toward a wall. The stranger arrived in the 8th week. He came down off the Iron Road on foot, alone, just before dusk. He wore a long grey coat, military in cut, but stripped of any insignia, and a wide hat pulled low. At his hip, on a leather strap, he carried a drum. The drum was the size of a child's head, dark wood, with a skin stretched across it that was not goat or sheep or calf. The village butcher would later say so, bound at the rim with hammered tin. He did not look like a soldier or a tinker. He did not look, the elder told me, like anything Marrowfen had seen come down off the Iron Road before, and the elder had been the elder for 31 years. He stopped in the square. He removed his hat. His face was thin and very pale, and his eyes were the color of well water, clear and tasting of nothing. He said, "I have heard about your wells. I can take what is in them away. I will name my price after the work is done. Do we have an agreement?" The elder said yes, very quickly. He told me much later that he had said it before he had thought, and that the word had not entirely been his own. The stranger worked for 2 days. He did not pray over the wells. He did not bless them. He did not lower anything into them. What he did on the first morning was walk a slow circle around the older of the 2, drumming a pattern with one hand, not a march, something quieter, something the children came to their windows to listen to. He drummed at the older well from sun up until noon, and the second from noon until sundown. The next morning he reversed it. By the end of the second day, both wells were clean. The butcher's dog was sent down on a rope and was alive in the morning and alive in the afternoon. The water tasted now, the priest said, of water, of stone, of a cold mineral note the older villagers remembered from childhood and had not realized they had been missing. The village wept, not for joy. Marrowfen did not have joy left to weep with. The village wept the way a man weeps who has been holding his breath for 2 months and is told he may breathe. The stranger came to the elder's house at sundown. He drank a cup of the new well water. He named his price. His price was a child. Not all of them. One. He said, "I will take one of your children up the iron road, and I will not tell you which, and the child I take will not come back. Pay it now or refuse it now. I will not stand at the door for an answer." The elder said, "No." He said no for the obvious reason, and he said no for a reason harder to say. In the silence after the price was named, every man at that table knew that if any of them said yes on behalf of the village, the price might fall on his own house. And no man at that table was willing to be the one whose child was taken to save the rest. And no man was willing to be the one who said, "Take someone else's." So the elder said no for all of them. He said, "We will pay in coin. We will pay in cattle when we have cattle again. We will pay in any way a poor village can pay a debt, but we will not pay in a child, and you should not have asked." The stranger heard him out. He set the cup down. He said, "I asked. You answered. Good night." He went out. The drum began at the 3rd hour of the morning. The elder heard it first because old men sleep lightly when they have been responsible for 63 houses too long. It was not the drumming the stranger had used at the wells. It was a march, slow, steady, patient. The rhythm a column walks to when the column is in no hurry, because the column knows where it is going and how long it will take to get there. The elder went to his window. The stranger was walking down the main lane of Marrowfen, drumming as he walked, both hands now, one keeping the rhythm and the other a second beat above it that was the beat of a heart slowed almost to stopping. He saw, behind the stranger, his granddaughter. She was 9. She was barefoot. She was in her nightgown. She walked in the center of the lane with her eyes open, and her face was not afraid. Her face was the face of a child who has been called for supper. Behind her, the butcher's son. Behind him, the smith's 2 daughters. Behind them, one after another, every child in Marrowfen who could walk, and some carried by older children, and at the end of the line, a boy of 3 holding a girl of 5 by the hand, his other hand still curled around the wooden horse he slept with. The elder tried to call out. He could not. He tried to take a step. He could not. He was not bound. There was no hand on him. He was standing at his own window, in his own house, in full possession of his own body, and his body would not move, not toward the door, not toward the lane, not even toward his wife, asleep in the next room. He could only watch, and he understood, not as he watched, but later, that he was not the only one. Every parent in Marrowfen was at a window. The rhythm had given the parents one thing and the children another. To the children, walking. To the parents, watching. And nothing else. Not stepping, not calling, not weeping aloud, not even, in the worst cases, the closing of an eye. He watched his granddaughter for the length of the lane. She did not look up at his window. He told me he was glad of that, and ashamed of being glad, and that the shame was the sharpest thing he carried out of that night, sharper than the loss, because the shame was his own, and the loss was something the road had done to him, and a man cannot be ashamed of a thing the road has done. The column reached the foot of the iron road at dawn. The stranger did not stop drumming. He walked up the first switchback, The children walked behind him. By the time the sun was over the eastern ridge, the last child, the boy of 3 with the wooden horse, had passed the second turning and was no longer visible from the village. The parents found, when the rhythm faded, that they could move again. The whole village ran. At the third switchback, the road would not let them go further. There was no barrier. There was no figure. There was only a moment at which the road became a road that was no longer for them, at which their feet stopped going up and started going down, the way a man's feet will sometimes carry him out of a burning house before his mind has agreed to leave. The elder tried for the rest of that day. He tried in some form for 31 years. The road was polite about it. The road each time returned him to the village. I came to Marrowfen in the 26th year because I had been told 3 roads over that there was a village at the foot of the Iron Road where the parents who were left would tell you a story they had told no one else if you sat at their table and ate their bread first. They were 26, of an original 94. They would speak only after the table had been cleared, and only with the door shut, and only one at a time. They told me what I have told you. They told me also the rhythm. Each told it the same way. 2 beats and a pause. 2 beats and a pause. Slow enough that you could fit a held breath between the second beat and the next pair, and slow enough that, if you started counting, you would lose count before the next beat fell. I have the rhythm in my head. I have had it in my head since I left Marrowfen. I will not drum it for you. I will not name it aloud. I do not know what would happen if I did, and I do not want to be the man who finds out. There is a coda. 11 years after the night of the drum, a boy walked into Marrowfen from the foot of the Iron Road. He came alone, at midday, in a man's coat much too large for him, and boots that did not match, and beneath the coat a tunic of plain cloth that was not the cloth of any country the village knew. He looked 9 years old. He had been 9 years old on the night of the drum. The elder's wife, the grandmother of the girl who had walked at the head of the line, saw him first. She stood in the doorway and looked at him for a long time. She did not run to him. She had not been able to tell, in that first moment, whether the boy was hers. He was not hers. She knew within an hour. The boy did not know her face. The boy did not know any face. The boy did not speak. When offered food, he ate. When laid in a bed, he slept. When the door was opened in the morning, he walked out and walked the length of the lane and turned and walked back and turned and walked it again. He walked it, the elder told me, for all 11 years between his return and the day I came to Marrowfen. He had not aged. He could not be made to stop, except by being held, and when held he stood, and when released he walked again. He did not seem unhappy. He did not seem anything. He walked. The village did not know whose child he was. The village did not know if he was a child. The elder told me, on the last night I sat at his table, that he had decided in the 3rd year the boy was the village's punishment. The road had given back 1 child as a reminder, not of what the village had lost, but of what it had refused to pay. He said, "We would not give him 1. He gave us 1 back. And we cannot tell whether the one he gave us is a son or a sentence." He said, "I tend him, I feed him. I will do this until I die, and I will leave him to whichever warden comes after me, until the road comes back for him, or until the road forgets." He said, "I do not know which I am hoping for." I left Marrowfen at dawn on a Thursday. The boy was walking the lane as I left. He passed me going the other way. He did not look at my face. I looked at his. His eyes were the color of well water, clear and tasting of nothing. I did not say so to the elder. The elder does not need to carry that. I have walked many of the 13 roads since. I have not gone back up the Iron Road past the 3rd switchback. I do not know that I would be turned back, the way the parents of Marafen were turned back. I know that I do not want to find out. I think about the rhythm. I think about it more than I should. I catch myself sometimes drumming 2 fingers on the side of a cup in a pattern I do not recognize as mine, and I stop my hand the way a man stops a hand reaching for a knife in his sleep. I think the stranger is still walking. I think he walks with a long line of children behind him, somewhere up there, and the line has grown longer from villages I have not been to. I think the rhythm he plays is the rhythm of a heart slowed almost to stopping, and the children walk to it because it is the rhythm a body wants to walk to when a body is being asked to lie down. I do not know what he is. I have a guess. I have kept it. I am telling you what I saw before I forget. Good night. 13 roads. Here is a tale I have not yet forgotten. Listen. Tonight it is 2 children sent away from a starving harbour and a stone wayhouse on the iron road that fed them for 3 nights without ever showing its face. The boy is in his 30s now. I have eaten across a table from him. He cannot eat anything cooked by another person without flinching, and he has never told me why. He told me everything else. The iron road is one of the 13. It runs north out of a harbour town called Pell's Reach, up through stone country and into the high passes, and the people who live along it say it is a road that wants things. What it wants varies. Some years it wants soldiers. Some years it wants horses. The year I'm telling you about, it was a hungry year all up and down the coast, and the road wanted children, and the harbour was happy to send them. The brother's name was Feolan. He was 11. The sister was Bryn. She was 9. Their father was a net mender. Their mother had been a fishwife who could split a herring with her thumb. The mother had died in the 2nd winter of the hunger, of nothing in particular, the way poor women die when there has not been food for long enough. The father had remarried a woman from inland who did not love the children and who did not pretend to. By the 3rd winter, the inland woman had begun saying every night at the table that there were too many mouths in the house. By the 4th winter, the father had stopped arguing with her. He did not send them out himself. He paid a carter to do it. The carter was a man called Owl because of his eyes. Owl took the children up the iron road in the back of an empty cart 3 days inland, and on the 3rd evening he told them to get down and walk back the way they had come. He gave them each a heel of bread. He gave the brother a tin cup. He told them, with what tenderness he had, and Owl had a little, that the road would feed them or it would not, and that he was sorry, and that he would tell their father he had taken them all the way to the city, which was a kindness, because their father had only paid him to go 3 days. He turned the cart around. The children watched him until the cart was a small thing, and then a smaller thing, and then nothing. Bryn had thought of the marker before they left. She had thought of breadcrumbs, the way a child does, and her brother had told her no, the gulls would have them in an hour, and besides, they had no bread to spare. She had thought of stones, and her brother had said stones were too heavy to carry that far, and you could not see one stone among the stones of the road. What she settled on was iron filings. Their father's shed had a barrel of them, swept up from the year he had tried to be a smith and given up. They were fine and dark and heavy in the hand. Bryn had filled a pouch with them the night before, and she had told her brother her plan, which was this. Every 50 paces she would let a pinch of filings fall behind her. The filings would lie black against the pale dust of the road. The wind would not take them. The rain would not take them. They would walk and they would mark. And when the carter abandoned them, they had both known he would, neither child had been stupid enough to believe the city, they would walk back along their own line of black grit and find Pell's Reach again. And maybe their father would be sorry, and maybe the inland woman would not be there anymore. and maybe... She let the filings fall the whole 3 days in the cart. She felt every pinch. She did not let her brother see her crying. When Owl turned around and the cart got small, Bryn took her brother's hand and they walked back toward where the filings should have been. There were no filings. The road had taken them. Not the wind, not the rain, the road. The iron road runs over stone in that country. Long, pale slabs of stone laid down by no one anyone remembers. And the slabs were bare. There was dust on them. There were the tracks of Owl's cart. There was the children's own footprints from where they had just walked. There were no filings, not at 50 paces, not at 100. Not at the place Bryn was sure she had let a whole handful go because her hand had been cramping. She sat down in the road, and she put her hand flat on the stone, and she could feel the filings under her palm. She could feel them, through the stone, as if the road had drunk them down and was holding them just under the skin. She did not tell her brother that. She told him she had miscounted. She told him they would go on and they would find the next inn and they would beg. He believed her, because he was 11 and she was his sister, and that is how it works at 11. They walked for 2 more days. There was no inn. There were no carts. The iron road in that country runs through long, empty stretches where no one lives, because the people who used to live there left, and the people who came after them did not stay. The children drank from a stream the first night. The second night, there was no stream. By the 3rd evening, Fowlan was carrying his sister because she had stopped being able to feel her feet, and he was crying without sound, the way an 11-year-old cries when he has decided he is the man now. That was when he saw the way house. It stood off the road, 50 paces into a stand of black pines, and it was made of stone, fitted stone, mortared tight, with a slate roof and a single iron door and a single iron-shuttered window. There was a chimney. There was smoke coming from the chimney. There was a lantern lit, hanging from a hook over the door. Fowlan put his sister down. He walked up to the door. He knocked. No one answered. He knocked again. He called out. He said, "Please." He said his name and his sister's name, and he said they were children and they were hungry and please. No one answered. He tried the handle. The handle turned. The door opened. Inside there was a fire. Inside there was a long table. On the table there were 2 bowls of stew, steaming, and a loaf of dark bread, and a pitcher of milk, and 2 wooden spoons set neat beside the bowls. The bread was still warm. He could smell it from the door. There were 2 beds against the far wall. The beds were made up. The blankets were turned down. There were 2 small nightshirts laid folded on the pillows. There was no one in the way house. Fowlan stood in the door for a long time. He went out. He went around the building. He looked for a stable, a privy, a woodshed, anywhere a warden might be. There was nothing. There was only the way house, alone among the pines, with smoke in its chimney and food on its table, and beds turned down for 2 children. He went back to his sister. He carried her in. He sat her at the table. He put a spoon in her hand. She ate. He ate. The stew was the best thing either of them had ever tasted, and they had both grown up on a coast where the fish were fresh, and they would have told you before that night that there was no food better than fish pulled out of the harbor at dawn. This was better. They ate until they could not eat. They drank the milk. They put on the nightshirts, which fit. They got into the beds, which were warm. Fowlan, before he slept, went to the door, and he looked out into the pines, and he said into the dark, "Thank you. Thank you, whoever you are." No one answered. In the morning, the bowls were gone. The bread was gone. The pitcher was gone. The table had been wiped. There were 2 new bowls. There was new bread. There was a pitcher of water with a slice of lemon in it. The fire was built up. The nightshirts they had taken off and folded were no longer on the pillows. Their own clothes, washed, were folded in their place. They had heard nothing in the night. Nothing. Faulan asked his sister if she had heard anyone. She said no. He asked her if she had slept all the way through. She said yes. He said he had too. They ate. They went outside. They walked the perimeter again. They called out, both of them this time, into the pines. "Hello? Hello? Thank you. We are the children. We are here." No one. The second night was the same. The food was on the table at dusk, hot, fresh. The beds were turned down. The nightshirts were laid out, but smaller than the first nights, because the first nights had been a little big, and these fit them perfectly. That was when Bryn started being afraid. She did not say so. She ate. She slept. But in the morning, when the bowls had been cleared and the new bread was warm and their clothes were folded again, she told her brother she wanted to leave. She said the road had eaten her filings and the Wayhouse was feeding them, and she did not want to be fed anymore. He told her one more night. He told her they were not strong enough to walk. He told her, and this is the part he told me, in his 30s, with his hand shaking on his cup. He told her that whoever was feeding them must be kind, because kind was what the food tasted like. She agreed to one more night. She agreed on a condition. They would not sleep. They lay in the beds with their eyes open. They had agreed to take turns, but neither of them slept. The fire burned low. The lantern outside the door creaked once on its hook. The pines made the sound pines make. It was after midnight when the floorboard moved. Not a board breaking, a board lifting from underneath, just by the table where they had eaten. A long, pale crack opened along the seam of 2 boards, and through that crack came a hand. The hand was thin. The hand was the color of something that had never seen the sun. The hand was longer than a hand should be. The fingers were the length of a man's forearm, and the wrist that came up after them kept coming, and the arm that came up after the wrist kept coming. And by the time the arm had reached up to the table and set a fresh bowl down where the old one had been, the elbow was still under the floor. Bryn put her hand over her brother's mouth. Another board lifted. Another hand came up. This one took the empty bowl and drew it down, slow, into the dark beneath the boards. A third hand laid out the bread. A fourth filled the pitcher. There were more hands than there should have been arms. There were more arms than could have fit beneath the Wayhouse. The hands worked silently, neatly, the way a good servant works at a table where the master is asleep. They did not knock. They did not hurry. They set out the breakfast for 2 children, and they took the supper away, and one by one the boards lowered and the seams closed, and the room was as it had been. The children did not move until dawn. When the grey came in through the iron shutter, Bryn got up. She did not look at her brother. She went to the table. She lifted the board the first hand had come through. Underneath the Wayhouse, in a hollow as deep as a cellar, were the bones of children, stacked, sorted. The long bones in one heap, the small bones in another, the skulls in a third. There were dozens. There were more than dozens. The bones were clean. They had been cleaned by something patient. The Wayhouse had been fattening them. Faulan went to pieces. He sat on the floor, and he made a sound that was not crying and was not screaming. And Bryn, who was 9 and small and the one who had thought of the filings knelt down next to him and took his face in her hands and told him to listen. She told him she had a plan. She had been thinking, she said, about the road, about the filings, about what the road did with what it was given. The road had taken her filings. The road took soldiers. The road took horses. The road took. That was what the road did. And the way house was the road's child, or the road's servant, or the road's mouth. And a mouth had to be fed, and what fed mouths was meat. The road had been feeding the way house. The way house had been fattening the children. The children had been fed to the road. She said, the way house has to be fed in turn. She said, I am going to feed it. Here is what she did. She told her brother to take the bread and the cheese from that morning's breakfast, and his clothes, and the tin cup the carter had given him, and to walk out the iron door and stand at the edge of the pines and not look back. She told him she was going to draw the hands up into the room. She told him she was going to lead them out the door. She told him the road would do the rest, and that he should run when he heard the road do it. He asked her how she knew the road would do it. She said, because the road is hungry too. He did what she said. He stood at the edge of the pines with his back to the way house. He could hear her behind him. He could hear her speaking to the floor, coaxing it, the way you coax a dog out from under a porch. Come up, she was saying. Come up and see. There is more. There is a whole one for you. Come up. He heard the boards lift. He heard them lift more than they had lifted in the night. He heard the hands come up and up and up. And then he heard a sound he has never been able to describe to me, a sound that was the way house unfolding, the way a thing unfolds when it has been pretending to be small. He heard his sister say, very calmly, this way. He heard her footsteps on the iron threshold. He heard the thing follow her, many feet, too many. She walked it out into the road. She walked it past the pines and onto the pale stone slabs, and she stood in the middle of the road, and she said, he heard this clearly, she pitched her voice for him to hear. She said, here, take it. I brought it for you. The road took it. He did not see how. He was not looking. He had his hands over his ears and his face pressed against the bark of a black pine, and he was 11, and his sister had told him not to look. He heard the slabs of stone make a sound he had heard once before, when she had put her hand flat on the road and felt the filings being drunk down. It was that sound, magnified, the sound of the road swallowing. When it stopped, he turned around. The way house was gone. Not collapsed, gone. The pines stood in a ring around an empty patch of ground, and the lantern hook was on the ground, and the iron door was on the ground, and there was no chimney, and no roof, and no walls, and no table, and no beds. There were no bones. The cellar was filled in with roadstone, smooth, as though it had never been opened. His sister was not on the road. The road was bare. The slabs were pale. There was no mark on them. There was nothing to suggest that a child had stood there a moment before and said, here, and offered. He walked south. He walked for 9 days. He drank from streams. He ate the bread and the cheese until they were gone, and then he ate nothing. And then he ate roots. And then he came down out of the stone country into a town that was not Pell's Reach, but was near enough. And a woman who sold cabbages took one look at him and brought him into her kitchen and put a bowl in front of him. He could not eat it. He tried. He sat with the spoon in his hand, and he looked at the bowl, and he could not put the spoon in. The woman did not press him. She gave him bread instead. He ate the bread because she had not cooked it. A baker had, and somehow that was different. Somehow bread from a baker was bread from many hands, and many hands meant not one mouth waiting under the floor. He has lived all his life that way. He eats bread from bakers. He eats fruit from trees. He eats fish he has caught and cooked himself, over a fire he has built himself, in a pan he has scrubbed himself. Anything cooked for him by another person, in another person's house, on another person's hearth, he flinches. He cannot help it. His hand will not lift the spoon. He told me, the night I sat across from him, that he is not afraid the food is poisoned. He knows it is not. He is afraid of the kindness of it. He is afraid of what a kindness might be paying for. I have walked that stretch of the iron road. I have looked for the patch of ground in the ring of black pines. I have not found it. The pines all look alike, and the road forgets the places it has eaten. I asked him, before I left him, whether he ever dreamed of his sister. He said, "I dream of her every night. She is always 9. She is always standing in the road. She always turns to me, and she says the same thing, and I cannot ever, in the morning, remember what it is." I asked him if he thought she was alive somewhere. He said, "I think she is part of the road now. I think she is what it has instead of filings. This is what I have come to think. I think the way house was a mouth, and the road was the stomach, and the children were the meal." And Bryn understood, the way a hungry child understands hunger, that a mouth and a stomach are not the same thing. A mouth can be fed once and emptied. A stomach is forever. She fed the mouth to the stomach. She broke the way house by giving it what it had been hiding from. And the road, having swallowed its own mouth, had to take her too, because she had stood on it and offered, and the road takes what is offered. Her brother walked out alive because she had paid for the walking. There were dozens of children's bones under that floor. I counted them in my head, from his telling, the way he had counted them at 9 years old in the grey dawn. Dozens. Going back, by the look of them, longer than any warden would remember. He is the only one who walked out. He is the only one because his sister was 9, and she had thought of the filings, and she had felt them drunk down through stone, and she had understood the road sooner than any soldier ever has. I am telling you what I saw and what he told me before I forget. If you walk the iron road and you come to a way house that has no warden, and the door opens and the food is on the table, eat if you must, sleep if you must. But on the 3rd night, lie awake, watch the floor. If a board lifts, do not scream, do not run. Screaming wakes the rest of the hands, running puts you on the road, and the road is the worse mouth. Wait until morning, and then, if you have a sister with you, listen to her. She will know before you do. 13 Roads. Here is a tale I have not yet forgotten. Listen. Tonight it is a girl with 12 keys and a brass ring, and a door she was told never to open. Her name was Sailor. She married a wealthy man from a great house, and the great house sat at the end of the hollow road. I will tell you what she found there, and how she walked back out. The hollow road is one of 13. It is the road of the missing. People who walk it do not always come home, and the ones who do not come home are not mourned the way other dead are mourned, because the road takes the remembering as well. A mother who loses a son on the salt road weeps for 40 years. A mother who loses a son on the hollow road weeps for a week. And then one morning, she sets out an extra plate at supper and cannot say for whom. The plate sits. The plate is cleared. The plate is not set out again. That is the road. It eats the grief along with the man. The man who married Sailor had walked the hollow road for 30 years and had not been forgotten. That alone should have told her something. He came down out of the hollow road in autumn and took a room at her father's inn. He was older than her father. He was quiet at table. He paid for everything in silver coin that was not the coin of any kingdom Sailor's father knew, and Sailor's father took it anyway, because silver is silver. He watched Sailor for 3 nights without speaking to her. On the fourth night, he asked her name. She gave it. He asked her father, the next morning, for her hand. Her father said yes before Sailor was awake to be asked. She was 19. He was, by the lines on his face, 60. He was kind in his way. He did not raise his voice. He did not drink. He brought her, on the morning of the wedding, a string of river pearls he had carried, he said, since his mother's time. The pearls were warm. Sailor put them around her neck and did not take them off, and she rode beside him in the cart up the hollow road, and she watched the trees on either side of the road and tried to remember the names of the villages they passed. She could not, after, remember any of them. Not one. She thought at the time that this was nerves. A bride forgets things on her wedding day. That is what she told herself. The house sat at the end of the road. It was 3 stories of black stone with a slate roof and a door of grey oak banded in iron. There was a stable. There was a well. There was a kitchen garden that had grown wild because, he said, no one had been there to tend it. He apologized for the garden. He said she might tend it if she wished. He said the house was hers now. He brought her inside. He fed her bread and salt at the kitchen table, his own hand, his own bread, the way a husband brings a wife into a house in that country. And after she had eaten, he took from his belt a brass ring with 12 keys hanging from it, and he laid the ring on the table between them. He said, "There are 12 doors in this house." He said, 11 of them are yours. Open them when you please. Sleep in any bed, read any book, sit in any chair. The house is yours. He said, "The 12th door is at the bottom of the stair behind the kitchen. It is made of black wood. It has no handle, only a keyhole. The smallest key on this ring opens it." He said, "That door is not yours. You will never open it, not while I live and not after." He said, "Do you understand me, Sailor?" She said, "Yes." He said, "Say it back." She said, "I will not open the 12th door." He kissed her forehead, the way a father kisses a daughter. He said he would be away 3 days. He said the house was hers. He left. The brass ring sat on the table between her hands. She opened the 11, of course. He had not told her not to. The first was a library, 2 stories high, with a ladder on a brass rail. Every book on every shelf was bound in the same dark leather. She took one down. It had no title on the spine. Inside the cover, in a careful small hand, was written a woman's name and a date. The name was not hers. The date was 80 years old. She put the book back. She took down another, a different name, a different date, 60 years. She took down a third, a different name, 40 years. Every book in the library had a woman's name and a date written inside the cover, and no 2 names were the same, and the dates ran back 200 years. She told herself the books had been collected from many libraries. She closed the door. The second was a music room. There was a harpsichord. There were 3 violins on stands. The violins had been tuned recently. She could see the bright bronze of new strings, but the dust on the floor showed no footprints but her own. The third was a room of clothes. 12 seasons of dresses hung on cedar racks, each season complete. A wedding dress, a summer dress, an autumn dress, a winter cloak, a riding habit, a chapel veil. 12 sets. Each set fit her exactly. She held one up to her shoulders. It had been cut for her measure. She had been measured, she remembered, by a tailor he had brought to the inn before the wedding. She had been measured once. There were 12 sets. She put the dress back. The fourth was a room of dolls. They were old dolls, porcelain, in the dress of country girls. They sat on shelves around 3 walls. Each one had real hair. She touched the hair of the nearest, and it was real, and it was the color and weight of a girl's. Each doll's hair was a different color. There were 11 dolls. She did not count them at the time. She counted them later. The fifth was a room with a window facing the back of the house. The window had a view of nothing, not a wall, not a garden, not the sky. A grey nothing, the colour of fog, but not moving. She stood at the window for a long time. She put her hand to the glass. The glass was cold. She could not tell if the nothing on the other side was inches away or miles. She closed that door faster than the others. The sixth was a chapel, a small altar, a single candle, lit. She had not lit it. She did not know who had. She knelt at the altar and tried to pray, and could not remember the words to the prayer her mother had taught her. She knew she had known the prayer that morning. She could not, in the chapel, find the first word. The seventh was the kitchen, the working kitchen, not the great kitchen below. There was bread on the counter. The bread was warm. She broke it. The inside was soft. There was no fire in the oven. There had not been a fire in the oven for some time. The ash was cold. The bread was warm. She did not eat it. The eighth was a nursery, a cradle, a rocking horse, a small bed under a small window. The cradle had never been used. The mattress was new. The blanket folded across the foot of the cradle had her initials embroidered on the corner. She had not embroidered them. The ninth was a mirror room, every wall a mirror, the ceiling a mirror, the floor a polished black stone that reflected like a mirror. She stood in the center of the room and saw herself 11 times. She counted. 11. She counted again. 11. There should have been more. There should have been mirrors of mirrors, reflections of reflections, going on forever. There were 11 sailors. She could not find the 12th. She closed that door very slowly. The 10th was a room of dried flowers, roses, lilies, larkspur, hung in bunches from the rafters. The flowers were very old. They were also still bleeding colour onto the floorboards beneath them, the way fresh flowers bleed when their stems are broken. She did not touch them. The 11th was a room with one chair, pointed at the wall. The chair faced the wall as if someone had been sitting in it and looking at the wall. There was no window. There was no picture on the wall. There was only the chair and the wall, and a small dent in the wall at the height of a sitting man's forehead. She sat in the chair. She looked at the wall. She found, after a moment, that she did not want to stand up. The chair was very comfortable. The wall was very close. She could hear, faintly, a sound she could not name. She stood up before she stopped being able to. She closed the 11th door, and her hands were shaking. And she went down to the kitchen, and she sat at the table, and she looked at the brass ring with the smallest key on it, and she thought about the 12th door for a very long time. She told herself she would not open it. She told herself for 2 days. On the 3rd day, she opened it. The door was at the bottom of the stair behind the kitchen, exactly where he had said. It was black wood. It had no handle. The smallest key on the ring slid into the lock as if the lock had been cut for it, which it had. She turned the key. The door opened inward. The room was lit. She did not, at the time, understand by what. Inside the room, in a half circle facing the door, stood 11 women in 11 wedding dresses. They were dead. I want you to understand that. They were not sleeping, and they were not sick, and they were not being kept alive by any art sailor understood. They were dead. They were also standing. Their eyes were open. Their hands were at their sides. Their dresses were the dresses sailor had seen upstairs in the room of 12 seasons, 11 of them, and the 12th dress, the one sailor had held to her shoulders, was missing from that room because the 12th dress was waiting on a hook on the wall behind the 11 women. An empty hook, a dress on it, cut to her measure. Each of the 11 women had her left palm turned outward, slightly, the way a beggar holds out a hand. Sailor went closer. She did not want to. Her feet went anyway. Each woman had a name carved into the inside of her own palm. The same name, 11 times. The husband's full name, first, second, and the long, old surname Sailor had said only once at the wedding when the priest had asked her to repeat it. The name was carved deep enough that Sailor could read it from a step away. It had been carved, she thought, by the women themselves. She could not say why she thought that. She thought it anyway. The name on each palm was fresh. None of the cuts had healed. None of the cuts had bled. She understood the room then. She understood it the way you understand a thing you have always known and never been told. The 11 women were the women who had come before her. The dresses upstairs were their dresses. The books in the library were their books. The dolls were their hair. The mirror room had 11 sailors because there had been 11 before her, and she was the 12th, and the 12th mirror was the hook on the wall, and the dress on the hook was the dress she had held that morning to her shoulders, and the cradle in the nursery had her initials on the blanket, because every wife the husband had known would die before she filled it. She turned to leave the room. The door was still open. She walked to it. She passed through it. She climbed the stair. The key in her hand was wet. She did not, at first, understand why. The room had been dry. The lock had been dry. She had not put the key down. She looked at the key in the lamplight on the kitchen table, and the key was wet, and the wet was not water. It was something darker, and it had a smell, a faint smell, like a flower that has been kept too long in a sealed room. She tried to wipe the key on her apron. The wet did not come off. The brass had taken the color. She knew then that he would know. He came home that night. He came home at the 3rd hour, the way he had said he would come home on the 4th day, but it was the 3rd day, and Sailor had lost a day somewhere in the 11 rooms and could not remember which one had taken it. She heard the door of the house open. She heard his boots on the flagstones. She heard him hang his cloak. She heard him say her name. She was sitting at the kitchen table. The brass ring was on the table. The smallest key was the color of old wine. He came into the kitchen. He looked at her. He looked at the ring. He looked at the smallest key. He did not raise his voice. He said, "Sailor, you opened the door." She did not answer. He said, "I told you not to. I told you and you said you understood, and you said it back to me. Why did you open the door?" She said, "Because you told me not to." He nodded, as if this were the answer he had expected. He said, "Every one of them said the same thing. You are not the first to say it. You are the 11th. There will not be a 12th because the dress is on the hook." He came across the kitchen toward her. He moved the way a man moves who has done a thing many times. He was not angry. That was the part she could not bear. He was not angry. He was tired. He was a tired man coming home to a tired ending. Now, listen to me carefully. The hollow road forgets the people who walk it. That is what the road does. The man at the end of the road had walked it for 30 years and had not been forgotten. Because the man at the end of the road had a name no one had spoken aloud in his hearing in 30 years. He had taught his wives to call him by a shortening, a single syllable, a kind word, the kind of word a wife uses for a husband when she is fond. Sailor had called him by it for 3 weeks. She had not, since the priest at the wedding, said his full name once. Each of the 11 women in the room below had cut his full name into her own palm with a knife in the last hour of her life, because each of them had understood, the way Sailor understood when she stood among them, what had been done. They had cut his name into their palms because they had wanted, at the end, for someone to read it. They had not been able to say it. The room would not let them. They could only carve it. Sailor was not in the room. Sailor was in the kitchen. The kitchen was upstairs and outside, and on the road that led away from the house, and the road was the hollow road, and the hollow road forgot. She stood up from the table. She said his full name. She said it loud enough for the house to hear it. First name, second name, the long, old surname. The man stopped walking toward her. He looked, for the first time, surprised. He opened his mouth. He closed it. He looked at his hands. His hands were going. The skin of his hands was going first, going thin, going grey, going to the color of the nothing in the window of the 5th room. He said, "Sailor, do not." She said his full name again. He went to his knees. She said it a 3rd time, and on the 3rd time, the house went with him. Not the stones stood. The remembering went. The 30 years of him walking the hollow road undid themselves in the kitchen between her and him, and the 11 women in the room below were forgotten by the road that had forgotten them. And being forgotten by the road that forgets is not the same as being forgotten by the world. The world remembered them. Their names came back into their mothers' mouths, in towns Sailor had never been to, in the same hour. 11 mothers, in 11 houses, set out an extra plate at supper for daughters they had not been able to grieve, and the plates stayed set. The man on the kitchen floor was not there anymore. The dress on the hook in the room below was not there anymore. The 11 women in the wedding dresses were not standing anymore. They were lying down. They were dead, the ordinary dead, the dead who go into the ground and are wept over. Sailor buried them. 11 graves in the kitchen garden that autumn. She marked each one with the name from the palm. She left the house in the spring. She took the ring of 12 keys with her. She took nothing else. I met her 3 years later. She runs an inn at the edge of a different road. It is not the hollow road. I will not tell you which road it is. She is older than 3 years should have made her. She is kind. She pours a good cup. She asks travelers their names and writes the names in a book she keeps under the counter. And she says she does this so that no one who stays a night with her will be forgotten. She has the brass ring on a nail behind the bar. 12 keys. The smallest one is still the color of old wine. The color has not come off. I asked her one night whether she ever says the name aloud anymore. She said no. She said, "I do not say it because I am afraid he might come back if I did." She said, "I do not say it because I am afraid he might not." I have stood in the room at the bottom of the stair behind the kitchen of the house at the end of the hollow road. The house is empty now. The door at the bottom of the stair is open. The hook on the wall is empty. There is no dress. There are 12 graves in the kitchen garden. I counted them twice. The 12th is small. It is at the end of the row. It has no name on it. The grass over it is the same age as the grass over the others. I do not know who is in it. I have a guess. I have kept it. So tonight I am telling you about a girl and a house and a ring of 12 keys and a door she was told never to open and a room with 11 dresses on 11 dead women and an empty hook for a 12th. She opened the door. She walked back out. She is the only one who did. If you ever find yourself on the hollow road and a man at the end of it offers you a ring of keys and tells you that one of the doors is not yours, open it. Open it on the first day. Do not wait and learn his full name before you go in. I am telling you what I saw before I forget. Good night. 13 roads. Here is a tale I have not yet forgotten. Listen. Tonight it is a man who has built the same wall for 600 years, and who is calm about it. I want you to hear that twice. 600 years. And calm. There are 13 roads, and one of them is called the crooked road. It is the road that does not believe in distance. You can walk a full day on the crooked road, fast and steady, with the sun moving the way the sun is supposed to move, and at evening you will look up and find yourself 100 paces from where you set out at dawn. Travelers learn to bring more bread than the map says they should. Travelers learn to count their days by the bread, not by the road. The road bends in ways that ground does not usually bend. I tell you this so you will believe what comes next. In a valley where the crooked road bends past 3 hills, there lives a stonemason. I will call him the Mason, because he did not give me his name, and I do not think he remembers it. The valley is a small one. The hills around it are low and round, and the grass on them is the kind of grass that has been grazed by sheep for so long, it has forgotten how to grow tall. There are no sheep there now. There is no village. There is the mason, and there is the foundation of a wall. And there is a quarry the mason cut himself, 1/2 mile up the eastern hill, where he goes when he needs more stone, which is most days. The wall is meant to be 12 feet tall. The wall is meant to be 140 paces long. The mason told me both numbers without thinking, the way a baker tells you the weight of a loaf. The wall is meant to keep something out. I asked him what. He looked at me for a long moment. Then he said, "I do not know what it is exactly. I know the shape of the keeping out. I know where it would come from if I let it. I know the wall is the answer to it. The knowing is not in words." He said, "The keeping out is the work. It is enough to know the work." I did not press him. I have learned not to press a man when his answer is also his peace. Here is the rule of the wall. Every dawn the wall is at the bottom course. Every dawn it stands at maybe knee height, the way a wall stands when a mason has laid the first day's stones and gone to bed. The mortar is fresh. The stones are cool with the night. The valley has not yet warmed. He builds through the morning. By midday the wall is at his chest. He builds through the afternoon. By sundown, the wall is at 3/4 of his height, sometimes a little more, and the light is going, and his hands are bleeding in the small cracks where stone meets skin. He has never gotten the wall past head high before midday. He has never gotten it past 3/4 by sunset. And at dawn, the wall is back at the bottom course again, knee height, cool, waiting. 600 years of dawns. He looks about 30. I want you to hold that picture. A man of 30, with hands like a man of 50 because of the work, with a beard cut close because long beards catch in mortar, with the kind of patient eyes you see on the older shepherds in country where the weather is hard. 30. 600 years of dawns and 30. I asked him how he came to be there. He told me he could not remember. He remembered being a boy with a chisel in his father's shed. He remembered the weight of his first hammer, which had been too heavy for him, and how his father had not made him a smaller one, because his father believed a boy should grow into a tool, not the other way around. He remembered his mother's hands on his shoulders the morning he left the village, though he could not remember which village, and could not remember whether he had left of his own choosing or had been sent. He remembered nothing in between the leaving and the wall. He did not remember a crime. He did not remember a sentence. He did not remember a judge or a god or a road warden or any voice that had told him what he was for. He remembered the boy with the chisel and the mother's hands, and then he remembered the wall, and the wall had always been at the bottom course. I asked him if he thought he was being punished. He thought about it. He said, "I do not know if this is punishment. I know it is what I do." I worked beside him for one day. I should tell you how that came about. I had walked into the valley at mid-morning by the path that comes down off the eastern hill, and I had seen him from a distance, working. From a distance, the work looked like any work. A man building a wall going up. The day moving the way days move. I came down off the path and he saw me coming, and he straightened, and he wiped his hands on his apron, and he watched me cross the last 50 paces with the kind of look a man gives a stranger when he is deciding whether the stranger is welcome. I came up to him. I told him my name. I told him I was a walker on the roads. He nodded. He said, "Do you know how to lay stone?" I said I had laid a little in my time. He said, "There is more than one man can lift today. If you are willing, the wall is willing." I was willing. He taught me a stone-cutting technique that morning that I have not seen anywhere else. It is a way of striking the chisel that keeps the line of the cut from running. Most masons strike the chisel at a hard angle and the stone splits, and most of the time it splits where you wanted it to. His way was softer. He held the chisel almost flat against the face of the stone, and he tapped it. 4 light taps and a 5th heavier one, and the stone parted along the line he had drawn in chalk like a piece of bread breaking along a score. I cut a stone in his way. It parted. I laughed, the way a man laughs when his hands have learned a thing. He smiled. He said, "My father taught me, I think." I asked him if his father had been a mason. He said he thought so. He said he could no longer be sure. He said the technique was older than he was, and so the technique was true, even if his memory of where it came from was not. We laid stone together until the sun was high. At noon we stopped, and we sat on a flat rock at the foot of the wall, and we ate. He had bread and hard cheese, and an onion and a flask of water, and he gave me half of all of it without my asking. The bread was his bread. He baked it himself, in an oven he had built in the eastern hill because there was no village. The cheese he traded for, when traders came up the crooked road, which was not often, and they always asked him how the wall was coming, and he always said, "It is coming." We ate without speaking for a while. Then I asked him the question I had been carrying since I'd come down off the path. I said, "The wall goes back at dawn. Why do you keep building?" He chewed his bread. He looked at the wall. He said, "It does not go all the way back." I asked him what he meant. He said, "The rule is that at dawn the wall is the height it was at the dawn before. So if I lay stone all day and stop at sundown, the dawn takes it all. The next morning I am at the bottom course again." That is what I did for many years. He said, "Many years," the way another man says, "a long time." He said, "I do not remember how many." He said, "But if I do not stop at sundown, if I keep working through the night, by lamp and by moon, and the dawn finds me with the wall higher than it was at the previous dawn, then the dawn only takes me back to the height I am holding when the dawn happens to me. The dawn fixes the wall at whatever it is at the moment the light comes over the eastern hill. So if I am at 4 feet when dawn comes, the wall is 4 feet at dawn. The next day I start from 4 feet." He said, "I worked this out eventually." I asked him how long it had taken him to work it out. He said, "A long time." I sat with that for a while. I sat with the picture of him, year after year, building the wall up to head high before sundown, watching the wall. 13 roads. Here is a tale I have not yet forgotten. Listen. Tonight it is not a man. It is 39 letters, folded into the wall of a wayhouse at the foot of the iron road. I have read every one. The wayhouse at the foot of the iron road has stood for 400 years. It is the last roof before the climb, and the first roof after the descent. And the warden who lives there is paid by no kingdom and answers to no one, and has been the warden for as long as anyone can remember a warden being there. He is the man who watches travelers up. He is the man who watches travelers back when there are travelers to watch back. On most years, there are not. The wall behind his counter is stone. Not blockstone, stacked fieldstone, mortared with the local lime, the way poor men have built walls in that country for as long as men have built walls. The wall has stood since the wayhouse was first roofed. The mortar has been repointed in places where weather got in, but the stone is the original stone. The letters are folded into the mortar. The first one I found was a square of yellowed parchment about the width of 2 fingers, jutting out between 2 stones at shoulder height. I would not have noticed it if the warden had not pointed. He said, "That one is from the boy whose dog is named Tup." I asked him what he meant. He said, "Read it." I unfolded the parchment with care, because parchment that has been folded for a long time wants to break along its creases. The handwriting was careful and small. It said, "Dear Annelle, please feed Tup. He eats from your hand. He will not eat from anyone else's. I will be home before the snow. Tell mother I am sorry for the door. Your brother, Tobin." I asked the warden when Tobin had walked the iron road. He said, 19 years ago. There are 39 of them. I have counted. I have counted twice. I have catalogued each one by the stone it sits between, and by the hand that wrote it, and by what it asks. Some of them are folded so deep into the mortar that only a corner shows. Some of them are tucked behind the stones, and you do not see them at all until the warden takes a kitchen knife and works the mortar loose and shows you. The warden does not take them out. The warden refolds the corner that is showing and puts the stone back. I asked him why he does not deliver them. He said, "They are not for me to deliver." I asked him who they are for. He said, "Read them. You will see." So I read them. They are not last words. That is the first thing you understand when you read 39 letters from soldiers who never came home. They are not last words. None of the letters knows it is the last letter the man will ever write. None of them is signed with the careful, weighted hand of a man who knows. They are practical. A man asks his wife to repay the cooper. A man asks his daughter to marry the smith's son before the smith's son loses his nerve. A man asks his mother to sell the cow, but not the calf. A man asks his brother to take the south field and leave the north field alone. The north field is bad ground. A man writes to his children, all 4 of them by name, and tells them to mind their mother. None of them says goodbye. That is the part I keep thinking about. If you are a soldier on the march, and you fold a letter into the wall of a wayhouse, you do it because you mean to send it. You do not mean to fold it forever. You mean for the warden to find it, or the next traveler, or the post rider when the post rider comes through. You mean for it to leave that wall and reach the hand it is addressed to. Every one of these 39 letters was meant to leave the wall. The captain's letter is the one I want to tell you about. His name was Cain Hollow. I have spoken his name before. He was the captain of a company called the Banner of Drust, 300 men who walked the iron road and did not come back. And what came back of them is a story I have already told. His letter is the longest. It is folded into the mortar low to the ground, just above the floorboards, where a kneeling man might tuck a thing he meant to come back for. It is signed in his full hand. Cain Hollow, Captain, Banner of Drust. He does not abbreviate. He does not initial. He writes his name the way a man writes it on a deed. The letter is to his wife. It says he is well. It says the company is in good spirits. It says the boys are drumming a rhythm he does not know, and he means to learn it before they reach the front. It says he loves her. It says he will be home before the harvest. It is dated 3 days before the company reached the ridge above the pass. Here is what I want you to understand. Cain Hollow was supposed to come home in the autumn of the year he marched. He did not come home. The company did not come home. 41 of his men came down the other side of the pass without their names and without their cloth, and Cain Hollow was not among them. His letter was found 10 years later. The warden found it. The warden showed me the place in the wall where it had been, and the mortar around the letter. And this is the part I have stood with for a long time. The mortar around it was not 19-year-old mortar. It was new. It was new mortar. I have stood beside the wall. I have looked at the place where it had been. I have asked the warden when that section of the wall was last repointed, and he told me the date. And the date was 11 years after Con Hollow walked the road. And the mortar that the letter had been pressed into was the mortar of that repointing, which means the letter was put into the wall the year after the wall was repaired, 10 years after Con Hollow disappeared. The letter is in his hand. I have compared it to the muster rolls he signed in the city before the march. The hand is his. I asked the warden how this is possible. He said, "I do not know how it is possible. I know that letters arrive." I asked him how often. He said, "Not often, but more than once. The boy whose dog is named Tup, that letter is 6 years old. The man whose daughter was to marry the smith's son, that letter is 12 years old. The man with the 4 children, 3 years. He said, "The wall has been collecting them since I have been here, and since the warden before me was here, and since the warden before her was here." I asked him whether the wall takes them. He said, "I do not know what the wall does. I know that I find them. I know that the mortar around them is fresh, and that the letters are dated long before, and that the hands are real hands. I know that the men are dead. I know that the letters are not. This is what I think. I think the men tried to come home. I think they walked the iron road, and the road took them, took their cloth, took their names, took the years they were going to live, took everything they were going to be. And the only thing the men could keep, the only thing they had any grip on at all, was the letter they had not yet sent. The letter they had folded in their packs to give to the warden at the bottom of the pass on the way back. The letter they had written before the road had taken them, when they still knew their wives' names and their children's names, and the rhythm a horse should drum, and the price of a cow. I think they kept those letters in their hands the whole way down. I think the road peeled them off, year by year, the way you peel a fruit. I think for some men, the letter slipped first. For some men, the letter slipped last. For some men, the letter slipped after the man himself was gone. And then, somehow, the wall took it. I do not know how the wall takes them. I do not know whether the wall is the road's accomplice or the road's enemy. I know what the warden does with them. He refolds them. He puts them back. He waits for a traveler who will read them. I asked him why. He said, "A letter is a man's last word against being forgotten. As long as someone reads it, he is not forgotten. As long as the wall keeps them, they are not lost. I am not the post rider. I am the keeper." I told him I would deliver them. He said, "You cannot." I asked why. He said, "Read the names." I read the names. The boy whose dog is named Tup. Tobin. Tobin's sister Annelle, the one who was to feed the dog, has been dead for 12 years. The dog has been dead for 15. The smith's son married someone else. The smith's son has grown old. The man with the 4 children. The children are men and women now, and the youngest of them does not know who his father was. The mother died not knowing the father wrote. The cow has been sold, and the calf has been eaten, and the field is now somebody else's field, and the cooper has been buried beside his wife, and the door the boy was sorry for has been replaced. There is no one left to deliver to. The warden was right. I cannot deliver them. But Con Hollow has a wife. She is old now. She is in the city she was in when he marched, in the house he meant to come home to, and she has been a widow for 31 years and has not remarried. and she kept the muster roll he signed. I have the letter. I am going to walk the salt road, and the bone road, and the glass road before I bring it to her, because I have other letters to deliver on other roads that other walls have given up. Every road has a wall. Every wall has its letters. The roads take, and the walls hold, and the wardens wait. And once in a while, a traveler comes through who will carry one home. I am that traveler, sometimes. So tonight, I am telling you about 39 letters folded into a stone wall at the foot of the iron road. I have read them. I have catalogued them. I have refolded them and put them back, except for the one in my pack, which is going to its widow. If you ever stand at the foot of the iron road, and the warden lets you in, and the wall is at your back, do not turn around quickly. Do not look for the corner of parchment. Look at the warden's face. If he is watching the wall is delivering. I am telling you what I saw before I forget.